Hello and welcome to Dungeons & Drawgans. We're nearing the finale of the Ballad of the Mad King saga, so if you haven't seen the previous videos, you may be a little confused. I would highly recommend checking those out before continuing. Link in the description and on the screen now. A bustling city street lay before Anya. The central city was host to all kinds. Dwarves, humans, elves, gnomes, and halflings made up most of the population, but there were others here. The beast races, such as lizard folk and cat folk, were rare and looked down upon, but present nonetheless. Anya took in the setting, noticing a large store on one side of the road. She entered inside and approached the counter to inquire about this place. Finding everything was fairly normal here, she exited back out onto the main street. But things were different. No longer was there anyone around. The city seemed to have aged several years. The buildings were damaged and in disrepair. A thick layer of dust coated everything, and thick gray clouds hung in the sky. Anya wandered around for a bit, unsure of what was going on. She discovered a rundown bar and entered it cautiously. Inside the bar seemed abandoned, and around the room, several holes could be seen, like something roughly dog-size had been digging around in here. Anya approached the back of the building, looking at the many dusty bottles of wine and mead which lined the back shelves, some of which were smashed and broken. Anya heard a faint rumble, and then a giant rat leapt out of one of the holes, catching her by surprise. It chomped into one of her legs, then dove back into a hole. Anya cast a few buffs on herself as she kept an eye out for it. The floorboards beneath her burst open, and the creature slashed at her from below, landing another hit. But now she was prepared. A shield of fire around her burnt the thing, and after swinging her sword at it for a while, she was able to defeat it. Finding nothing of interest in the bar, she left, but only found herself in a different part of the city. A large medical clinic stood before her, and out of it came a flood of terrifying beasts. She fled until she reached a fence that had been used to quarantine this area off. When she turned back, however, she yet again found herself in a different location, staring out the side of a massive watchtower that was damaged and looked as if it barely stood. A giant bird rose up suddenly from below her with a loud screech. She attempted to fight it, but its claws dug into her and tossed her off the tower. Plummeting rapidly and helplessly to the ground 1,000 feet below, she felt the presence of Sarenrae upon her. Suddenly, a strange feeling overtook her, and giant white feathered wings sprouted from her back, tearing straight through her full-plate armor. With her newfound lift, she fought the giant bird off and landed safely on the ground in front of a church. It looked strangely more intact than the rest of the city, though still bore the wear and cracks that were so common here. Inside, the floor was polished, clean, and reflective, though a little rubble could be seen here and there. 6 pillars sat on either side of the room, leading up to an altar and a stained glass window. On the floor in the center of the room was a piece of paper, which appeared to be a note, and on the other side of the room stood a large bear-like monster. Anya moved carefully towards the note, but found that its letters were unreadable, blurred as if her mind would not allow her to see them. The bear charged forward, and Anya raised her weapon in defense. She was fighting toe-to-toe with the thing fine, until something lurched at her from the left. A tall, lanky monster that appeared to be covered in greasy hair. It had long claws on its hands and moved swiftly, slashing at Anya and dodging her strikes. Unable to deal with both creatures at once, she fled from the church. But once she pushed past the door, she was standing instead in a throne room with a huge, undead white dragon in front of her. She attempted to rush past it, but it bashed her back into a pillar again and again, until eventually she woke up, still safely situated in the camp just south of the dwarven mines, though the wings she had sprouted in her dream were still there. Anya took the chance to prepare her spells for the day and commune with her deity.
I'm surrounded by darkness and other anathemas. Sarenrae, what should I do?
Sarenrae responded to her with a bit of wisdom. Though you may not realize it, fate has brought your group together for a reason. Sometimes we must work with people who seem opposed to our values to achieve a common goal. If guidance is what you need, follow the light. She opened her eyes to see the sun rising over the mountains to the east. Heeding the words of her goddess, she headed to the east and found herself once more at the kobold war camp, encountered the previous day. She wandered into the camp once more, alerting the kobolds to her presence, and asked to speak with Kaffin. "What brings you back here?" he asked.
I believe my journey leads me back here for some reason.
I cannot claim to know anything about that, but if you'd like, you could join me and a couple new recruits. We heard the monsters are moving up from the south, and are going down to kill them before they get any closer to our camp. Anya decided this is what she was here for, and along with Kafin, Tengu, and Goran, moved south of the mountains to grassy hills where they encountered more monsters. Kafin remained at the back and provided support as the others fought off the beasts. During the battle, Goran nearly fell but was healed by Anya. Anya noticed a mark on one of the beasts that she had seen before. This beast was the one that had attacked her village many years ago, and she took it upon herself to strike the thing down. Once she had returned to her party, she was greeted by Kalis and Sylvan.
"Where have you been?"
Sylvan asked slyly.
A dream. My path sent me back to Kafin's camp for answers.
What was it about?
I believe I saw what happens to the world if we fall,
She said.
The city was overrun with beasts.
As the rest of the party awoke, they were ready to continue their journey, with the knowledge that the guard captain, STOIC the Great, could get them into the central city. Their journey was nearing its end. A few days' travel brought them to Italis, and they found their way to the guard station in search of the captain. However, they were informed that STOIC had been missing for days. He was thought to be captured by a party of orcs that were set up in a castle south of the outer wall. The group journeyed there in search of STOIC the Great, hoping to finally have their questions answered. What they found when they arrived was a war camp filled with orcs. They walked in and were greeted by several armed orcs. Their leader stepped out to see what the commotion was about.
"I am Mordinar, commander of this fort. Who are you, and why are you here?"
The orc leader said in a booming voice.
"Oh, we were just looking for the guard, Captain STOIC. We were told you might have him,"
said Sylvan.
"Yeah, I've got that idiot. He was trying to spy on us, so we captured him for information. Doesn't seem like he's got any, though."
"Well, we may have a bit of information to trade with you, if you are willing to let him go,"
he said.
"Depends on the information."
"There's a hole in the northern section of the outer wall of Italis."
The orc looked skeptical but interested.
"You'll have to forgive me if I don't believe you on your word alone. I'll send someone to verify this, and if it's true, I'll let that sniveling fool go."
He called a couple of his soldiers and sent them out as a scouting party to see if they could find the hole. The party remained in the orc camp for several hours and were growing restless. Aaron decided he didn't want to wait and proposed he challenge Mordinar to a one-on-one fight for STOIC's freedom. The party discussed it and decided Darnir should be the one to face him. The challenge was issued and met with a grin and agreement. Mordinar stepped down from his horse and stood before the group, towering over most of them with his warhammer. Darnir also held his battle axe at the ready. Sylvan placed a few side bets with the other orcs who confidently cheered for their commander, and the fight began. A few blows were exchanged with weapons, and quickly both participants were bleeding. It was a close and bloody fight, which quickly devolved into grappling. Mor tried to choke Darnir out, and Darnir shook free, breaking his arm. Still, the crazy orc did not back down. Both of them were close to passing out from the blood loss as Darnir got back to his feet, swinging his axe down at Mor, and it lodged in his chest plate, a strike that would have killed most opponents, but not an orc. He raged and twisted to grab his hammer, bashing Darnir with it, knocking him to the side. Mordinar stood, refusing to back down. Darnir was weak, but with one final swing of his axe, he took off the orc's head and mounted it on his weapon. The crowd of orcs grew quiet, and the party cheered as Darnir tore the tusks off of the orc and made them decorations for his axe. Reluctantly and grumpily, the orcs recognized Darnir's strength and led them to STOIC's cell to release him. STOIC was a scrawny and terrified human man in metal armor and was frightened when he first saw them, but they took him out of the camp quickly before the orcs had a chance to change their minds. STOIC told them what they needed to know. There was a sewer that led into the city from below and could be accessed from the outside. This was their way in. STOIC agreed to lead them there, but not to join them, as he was afraid of the Thieves' Guild that made their home in the sewers. Along the way, the party met up with a group of beasts they had saved much earlier in their journey, who seemed far stronger now, and offered to help the party in their quest through the sewers. Skrek, the ratfolk, claimed he may have a connection to one of the members of the guild, and might be able to negotiate safe passage, so the party agreed to take them along. The sky was getting cloudier as they made their way into the sewers. They had to slip past some narrow passageways one at a time, and ended up splitting up. Aaron encountered some ratfolk thieves who attempted to jump him and attack, but underestimated the monkey Blood Rager. He took them out quickly and headed down the hallway, losing sight of the rest of the group. traveled with Skrek, Jarira, and Carla down a long passageway. The rest of the party discovered a hole in the wall and walked through. There was a makeshift bridge crossing between platforms in the sewers. Below there was water, and it appeared there was some electrical current loose in it. 2 rat folk blocked the bridge and attacked Kalis when they saw him. A quick scuffle resulted in Kalis shoving the thief into the water. He started to spasm and shout as he was being electrocuted. They eventually crossed the bridge and encountered a rather tough-looking rat folk, the apparent leader of the group. He was hostile and ready for a fight, but Darnier surprised him by leaping over his little barricade and stabbing him in the back. There was a short scuffle, and Anya burnt several of the rats before Darnier took down their leader. The thieves surrounded, and their hideout was looted. Meanwhile, Aaron and the beasts found their way to a drainage tunnel, which appeared to lead to the surface. They climbed and flew up the rubble towards the light. The air wobbled and shifted as Aaron caught sight of the gray, clouded sky, stepping out into a quiet street. In front of him was a fence, protecting a large factory building. To the left, the path was blocked by a collapsed building, and on the right, a giant undead monster. The city, it seemed, had already fallen to the monsters. The large necromantic wolf to his right noticed him, and Aaron and the others quickly rushed through a hole in the fence and into the abandoned factory, only to find several smaller monsters roaming around within the building. Aaron panicked and flew up to the second level of the building, leaving the others behind. The bird bard, Carla, struck a chord and sent several of the monsters flying, as Skrek charged in with the cleric's support. Aaron flanked the monsters and drew some of their attention until the others could slip past. They eventually reunited with the rest of the party outside the factory.
That oracle said we'd find our answers in the throne room, right?
Kalis said.
Let's go kill us a king.
The party carefully navigated the streets, avoiding or killing any monsters they came across, until they reached the central city market district. Anya recognized this as the place she'd seen in her dream, only the stores were closed down, collapsed, or boarded up, and the fountain at the center of the crossroads was tainted with blood. As the group approached the outer wall, they found dried blood and corpses piled up around the barricaded front gates. It seemed that in their last moments, many townsfolk had tried to flee, but were held back by the quarantine. The group moved towards the castle, making their way past another frightening beast and up the stairs to the throne room. There, a big iron door blocked their path, and it appeared to need 5 keys to open. A letter was found at the foot of the door. Sylvan picked up the note and began to read.
Dear Father, I have my messenger run this over to you right away. I don't know what is happening. In all this commotion, I've holed myself up in my second home with my family. Hopefully, this all dies down. It may just be a false alarm, but I simply wanted to tell you that I was safe. I've been keeping tabs on my fellow council members as you've asked, and well, I didn't get to see where Lugner was headed since he rushed out in such a hurry, but I suspect he's just fled to that bar he likes so much. Another night of drinking his guilty conscience away, I suppose. The gnome, Bellust, I believe his name, was headed up into the guard tower. I thought it strange, but not really out of character for him. He is usually quite strange. Air and Zwerg seem to be meeting at the chapel near the northern wall an awful lot, but I'm not sure what it is they're discussing. Perhaps they are just very religious, though they always go together and seem oddly close for a couple of colleagues. Regardless, I hope to see you soon, Father. This commotion shouldn't last long, I'm sure. My regards, Prince Schuld II.
This was their final test. To enter the castle and reach the answers they had been searching, they would need to find the 5 keys held by the representatives of each major race. Thanks for watching this episode of Dungeons & Drawgans. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe for more. Feel free to comment your own D&D stories down below. And come follow my Twitter, @DungeonsAndDraw, where I give updates, interact with fans, and even let you vote on what story I tell next.